Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Karev yom, asher hu lo yom velo laila. Karev yom, asher hu lo yom velo laila. Ram hoda, 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 ki lecha hayom af lecha halayla. Ram hoda, 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 ki lecha hayom af lecha halayla. Shomrim hafkid, hafkid leircha, kol hayom vechol halayla. Shomrim hafkid, hafkid leircha, kol hayom vechol halayla. Tayir, 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 tayir keo yom cheshcha layla. Tayir, 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 tayir keo yom cheshcha layla. Tayir, 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 tayir keo yom cheshcha layla. Tayir, 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 tayir keo yom cheshcha layla.
Shabbat Shalom, and soon to be Chag Sameach, as Passover will be beginning tomorrow night. Hopefully, I will see many of you on the second night joining us for our community Seder. The song we began with the song that we began with this evening, actually, according to the song, morning and evening will be the same day. So I think I was transported to this moment where there is neither night or day. And it talks about the possibility of Passover being a time when we are all liberated, and that the distinctions, the binaries that separate and divide us will lead us to a place of union and oneness. And so it's a lovely sentiment to begin our Shabbat, entering into Passover. As always, it's my pleasure to welcome everyone to Congregation Beit Haverim. If you're a guest, please introduce yourself in the chat. We would love to warmly welcome you. And for those of you who are joining us on YouTube, if you drop us a line there, we would love to warmly welcome you too. Thank you for viewing our Shabbat service. You're always welcome, either on YouTube or here on Zoom. And for those of us who are with me on Zoom, please feel free, when it's appropriate, to come onto camera. Let us see your faces, sing with us, pray with us. Use the chat thoughtfully, but I would say liberally. We love to hear people's reflections and thoughts and sharings and good wishes for one another. So please feel free to engage that way. We take this moment to welcome in the Shabbat by lighting our candles, and I'd like to invite Steve and Margie to come on camera as we light these candles and say our Shabbat blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner, Shel Shabbat. Amen.
Amen. And friends, I just want to welcome my co-leaders for this evening. Our chorus director, Will Robertson, and his partner, Amy Cooper Robertson, will be joining me in leading our services. And for folks who do not know them, beloved members of our community, they'll be leading much of the music. We're going to take a moment to wish each other a good Shabbos and bring blessings of peace to one another in the chat as we move into Shalom Aleichem. We won't be moving into breakout rooms this evening. We'll have an opportunity to do that at Second Night Seder. I thought if tonight our service was a bit briefer, it would be easy on everybody's amount of Zooming that we're going to be doing this weekend. So make sure to take this opportunity to offer your blessings of peace to one another in the chat now and join us in singing Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hashalem, Malachei Elyon. Ki Melech Malachei Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Aleichem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Ki Melech Malachei Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni leShalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Ki Melech Malachei Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem leShalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we find Shirul Adonai on page 25. Shirul Adonai, Shir Hadash, Shirul Adonai, Kol Haaretz, Shirul Adonai, Baruch Shemo, Basru Miyom Leyom Yeshuato, Yai, 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 Shirul Adonai, Shir Hadash, Shirul Adonai, Kol Haaretz, Shirul Adonai, Baruch Shemo, Basru Miyom Leyom Yeshuato, Yai, Lai, Lai, Yai, Lai, Lai, Yai, Lai, Yai, Lai, 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 Yai, Lai, Yai, Yai, Lai, Lai, Yai, Lai, Yai, Lai, Yai, Lai, Lai.
So, friends, this mystical prayer Nagibor, which invites us to take a moment and unleash the places where we feel knotted up or tight. I have to say that last night was a series of internal clenching as I saw that our state government has passed this sweeping voter restriction bill. There are more bills to come this coming week, but it was even more intense seeing my own state representative and good friend, Park Cannon, being dragged away and arrested for knocking on the door as Governor Kemp was signing the restrictive voting bill in private while it was being live streamed. And to me, Shabbat is really the time for us to kind of loosen up. I believe that we will recommit on Passover exactly the kind of freedom and liberation that we want to bring, recognizing that everybody has a right to the vote. And one of the things that I learned in my own preparation for Passover is that Nagibor in some communities, this prayer that we'll hear and you can find on our YouTube site, along with our other music, is that it's something that is sometimes sung every day of the Omer as a part of the count. And so for me, that's really an opportunity of how we open up our ways to revelation. And so invite us to take this moment where whatever our week has been, allow the song to do its work, to loosen up those tight places, and allow us to be the sacred vessels, channeling the sense of Shabbos peace and the sense of Passover justice.
We welcome in Shabbat with Lecha Dodi on page 41. Lecha Dodi likrat kalai alalai 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 v'neshavat nekabelai Dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 pene Shabbat, mekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 pene Shabbat, mekabela.
I invite you to rise in body or spirit. We turn to page 55 for the Chatzi Kaddish. Yikadahal v'yikadash shemei Rabba b'yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayetecho beit Yisrael b'hagala uvizman kariv v'meru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbo mevorach leolam leom me'amaya yiparach yiparach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudesha brichu Liela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amihiran be'alma v'yimeru amen. We continue to rise on page 57 for the Baruch. We take this opportunity to wish one another good fortune and good blessing. Ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da. Baruchu et Adonai, hamevorach, hamevorach.
Baruch Adonai, hamevorach leolam vaed.
Baruch Adonai, hamevorach leolam vaed. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. So when we arrive at the Baruch Hu, it's an opportunity for us to recognize we have finished Kabbalat Shabbat and we are moving into the Ma'ariv, or the evening service. I want to say that tonight's evening service, I've taken a meditation that was written by Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt. It was written in 3 sections, a meditation for us in thinking about entering Passover, kind of taking stock of this moment. And so what I've done is I've pulled it apart into 3 sections throughout our Ma'ariv as a way to enter more deeply into our prayer service tonight, by also using this as an opportunity for us to think about where we are spiritually, internally in this moment. And so before we chant the Chatima of Asher Bivaro, which we'll find on page 59, I'd like Shelley Rose to read this first piece of the meditation, Who Are You?
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom, Shelley.
Who are you? I'm Yisrael. I'm a God wrestler. I'm someone who wrestles with the holy, with the source of all being, with my understanding of ultimate reality. And I expect God to wrestle back. I dance with God. I waltz with Torah. I stay up all night grappling with angels. And even if I come away overwhelmed, I know I come away blessed. I'm a wandering Aramaean, and I'm wearing my traveling shoes. I'm a child of the house of Israel, and my community and I, and anyone else who hears freedom's call, are walking into the wilderness together.
Uma'avir yom umevi laila, umavdihil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamidim lo chalenu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv aravim. Amen. We find Ahavat Olam on page 63. I invite you to pray along as we listen to it being sung.
Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Torah mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu lemadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, b'shachveinu u'b'kumenu, nasiach b'chokecha, v'nisman b'divrei Toratecha, Ki hem chayenu, orech yamenu, orech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'layla, yomam v'layla.
Yavachalot tetzur memenu olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael. Amen. I feel like when I hear Sarah playing in that prayer, that I want to maybe pay her to walk around with me for a day and accompanying everything I say with her violin. It truly hits me in the right place. So friends, I'm going to invite you, if you're not on gallery view, just to take a moment to perhaps toggle there so that before we say the Shema, we kind of get a moment of seeing all of our faces and recognizing that as we take a moment and look at all of the different cells that we make up a part of the great oneness of this community and congregation, and we make part of the great oneness in the world. And as Jews are beginning Shabbat in different times or have already experienced Shabbat, we are connected to that oneness as well. And so as we deeply appreciate all of us showing up and the oneness of the divine reflecting in our faces, let us take a moment to close our eyes, take a breath, and then I invite you to join me in chanting the Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. V'ahavtacha et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol mi'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantaham levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'leftecha v'derech u'shafbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam le'ohot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'heinenecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha. Before we sing the words that the Israelites sang as they moved through the Sea of Reeds towards freedom, I'm going to invite Effie Baton to offer this next part of our meditation. Where are you coming from?
Where are you coming from? I'm coming from Mitzrayim, from the narrow place, from slavery, from constriction. I'm coming from hard labor. I'm coming from the surfeit of sweetness that lulls me into forgetting the world's imperfections. I've been settling for what hurts, too fearful to risk something new. I'm coming from suffering and isolation. I'm coming from addiction to my work, addiction to success, addiction to separation. I'm coming from, if I stopped working, I'm not even sure who I'd be.
Join us for the Micha Mocha.
Micha Mocha Va'elim Adonai Mi kamocha Neder b'kodesh Nora Tehilo Malchutecha We move to Hashkivenu on page 80. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha v'taknenu be'etza tova bilfanecha ve'hoshienu ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha Taknenu be'etza tova milfanecha ve'hoshienu ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha ve'taknenu be'etza tova milfanecha
So, friends, in a moment, we're going to hear the last of the three meditations. And this meditation is, Where Are You Going? We're going to move from this meditation to chanting Shalom as a way to kind of invite that question of what direction are we headed as we enter into this Passover season? And then from that Shalom chant, we'll move into a little bit of our silence. It would be the time for those who'd want to offer a traditional Amidah to do so, or you can sit in meditative, reflective silence with us, and then we will move out of that to a prayer for healing. So I'd like to invite Jan Levy to offer this reading.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. I'm going to Yerushalayim. I'm going to Ir Shalem, the city of wholeness. I'm going to Ir Shalom, the city of peace. I'm going to where my ancestors spoke with God, one-on-one. I'm heading toward my best imaginings of community and connection. I'm clicking my ruby slippers with fervent kavanah and moving toward the meaning of home. Maybe I'm going to a place. Maybe I'm going to a state of mind. Maybe it's an asymptotic progression towards something that can't be reached. Maybe it's the journey that defines me.
Shalom. 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 Shalom.
Amen. May we go together in strength. And speaking of strength, we want to offer prayers of resilience, prayers of healing, prayers of renewal for those in our communities, our loved ones, our friends, our families, our co-workers, our neighbors. I want to invite you to put the names of those that you are praying for in the chat as we offer this Misha Berach for healing. I will read the names from our community as you put the names in the chat as well. We include in our prayers tonight Richard Adler, Marilyn Pankin, Maureen Camelson, Richard Cohen, Jenny Williams Cohen, Mario Eugene Hudson II, Lois Birch, Andrea Finn, Bev Corfin, Uli Sprick, Ellie Emmerhart, Chai and Billy Nach, Claude Baruch, Jordan and Jamie Schwartz, Tesla Queen, Janice Blackman, Beth Ann Bootycant, Nancy Davis, Megan Radant, Janice Roger, Pilar Barkley, the Baton Snook family, the Levin family, the Kolbs Reckelman family, Grady Floyd Adair, Eyal Schechter, Audrey Galix, Faith Russler, Dolly Wax, Esther Myers, Ellen Leary, Monique Gauthier, Julio Quintana, Jacob Gutman, Rona Crozy, and Patty Marcus. And I'll add our representative, my representative, Park Cannon.
Misha Berach Avotenu Kor HaChaim Ve'imotenu Uyevareh Ve'yirafeh Et HaCholim Et HaCholim El Narefana El Narefana El Narefana Lo El Narefana Lo El Narefana La El Narefana Lo El Narefana La El Narefana Lo.
So friends, I have a little bit of Torah for us this evening. It's a bit of Passover Torah. Before that, I just want to thank Steve and Margie for remembering to add the families of those who died in the shootings, both here in Atlanta and in Boulder, Colorado. So I wanted to share a little bit with you about ancient Passover. And ancient Passover began before there was a Seder. The way that we observe Passover today has changed and evolved significantly since biblical times. And I'll just start by saying that one of the reasons why I've embraced Reconstructionism at a pivotal moment in my life is that to recognize the evolution of our holy days has invited me to continue to be part of the evolution of where our holy days and how they are observed today. And so understanding that the Passover Seder was not what was commanded in the Torah, but rather happened once the Second Temple was destroyed and there was no longer a place to offer the Paschal sacrifice. And so before then, the history of Passover took some interesting forms. There is some mystery that is shrouded around the first Passover observances, but some scholars believe that it blended two ancient Israelite spring rituals. So even before it was connected to the Exodus story, there were two spring rituals, and often in the Near East and in the Jewish calendar, Nisan, the month where Passover falls, was seen as the new year. And so we see these not only as spring rituals, but New Year rituals. So one way to look at ancient Israelite community is that there were two distinct groups of Israelites. One were the shepherds, who were semi-nomadic, and one were the farmers, who pretty much lived in kind of small villages, and they stayed put, tending to their fields. So when winter was over, the Israelite shepherds would practice a sacrificial rite before they journeyed to better pastures. What they would do is they would take one of their youngest lambs from the flock and they would sacrifice it, followed by gathering a large family meal. So already you can see that first meal as people gathering with family and friends to be a proto part of what we do today. But what was different about this ritual is they believed that the ritual would protect them from harm on the journey to greener pastures. And this ritual was called the Pesach, the Paschal Sacrifice. The other spring ritual, which was observed by the Israelite farmers, who celebrated during this time the first of the spring grain harvests. So spring to the Israelites, particularly the farming community, signaled that the scarcity of food from the winter was over. There was always this gamble of had they put enough in storage to make it through the winter. And as spring was coming, they were basically often getting to the very end of their stores. And in fact, often the starter to make bread, which was how bread was made in the ancient Near East, was almost all used up, or often used up by the time winter came, so that there was no way to get bread that rose. And so when their excess grains were depleted and dough was needed, the starter was needed for leavening, they didn't have anything. So they waited for the barley to sprout. The timing of Passover, the 15th of Nisan, the full moon of that first month, was often when the barley, the first crop of barley, was ready to be harvested. And for them, they would get the first batches and they would bake them into bread, but with no starter. And barley was seen as kind of the cheapest or the less desirable of all the grains. They created flattened, unleavened cakes. And so long before the Israelites leaving Egypt with matzah, there was, because of necessity, a 7-day festival celebrating the barley harvest, where not only would the first tastes of bread, if they had run out of their grain, would return, but it was also when they would begin to gather enough of the barley to create a starter for bread that would be leavened after the 7-day festival. And so they had their version of matzah long before our connecting it with the Exodus story. And this part was called Chag HaMatzot eventually, the festival of matzah, the festival of unleavened bread. And it was a sign that the abundance of food was returning, even though it in of itself was a humble, meager kind of bread. So eventually, the Israelites, as they became settled and Jerusalem became their central place, they began to go to the temple, and that is where everybody would travel together to offer the Paschal sacrifice, and they would stay a week and celebrate the festival of matzah. And so these two different celebrations got blended into one. And under the monarchy was this desire to have these two distinct festivals, to bring these two distinct communities together into one. And with the monarchy, they began to connect these two rituals with the story of Exodus and what we have come to know as the Passover story. And so the Pesach sacrifice happened at the temple on the first night, sometimes the second night as well, and they would eat the matzah in the morning. Eventually, the people extended their time and stayed that entire week, during which they ate the unleavened bread. So that's a little bit about kind of the format of what happened. And it wasn't until the temple was destroyed and under a Greek influence, where this idea of what a symposium was and how festive meals were eaten, did this idea of using the symposium as an educational tool to teach the next generation, did the proto-Seder actually happen. But I want to talk about these three steps and what I believe to be some spiritual lessons that we can bring into our Passover today. So, from our shepherding ancestors, the ones who first would offer up that lamb as a sacrifice, this ritual was called apotropaic, which is a ritual to protect ourselves. And so I think that it is really important, particularly after a year that we've had, to learn that our ancestors would often think about what were the kinds of rituals they needed to ensure that they had the safety that benefited them. And while their sense of science and safety and spirituality are different from us, we too must still ask that same question. What is the way that we can engage our spirituality for the well-being and the safety of our bodies and our minds and our spirits? I think that, having our Seder still on Zoom or with a small group of people this year is a way that we are enacting this kind of safety. And I think any year that there are ways where our ritual and our prayer can be invited to be a sense of our own protection and awareness. The second lesson, I call it the lesson of the barley starter. I love this idea. In fact, I think in some ways it's the Jewish version of the first pancake. Often the first pancake doesn't come out very good, but it is something that is needed for the rest of the pancakes to come out, that you have to start somewhere. While many of us have been making the best of our situation, given this year of quarantine and physical distancing from one another, many of us probably feel depleted at this moment, maybe even flattened like the matzah. Some years I would be inviting us to think about what is the arrogance that we need to get rid of, that chametz. But this year, I think it might be, what are the ways that we need to prop ourselves up? What are the ways that we can kindle a sense of hope? And to understand that our ancestors would celebrate the very little that they had, the barley that was seen as less than adequate at any other time of year, as life-saving, to me is a powerful lesson that whatever it is we have, that is our starting point. And from there, we build a sense of gratitude. And from there, we find a way to use that starter to expand our sense of depletion to a greater sense of expansiveness. It is how we might walk from the narrow place and call out our sense of depletion and recognize that we can be hopeful for an expanse that we can claim for ourselves. And so know, like the barley starter, that sometimes you make do with what you have, but that in of itself can become magic for the next step. And lastly, I love that there was this vision of taking these ancient rituals from different aspects of our community and blending them together to find a way for a unified story. There are times where how we honor the Sephardic community, the Mizrahi community, this family's tradition versus another family's tradition, a community like ours that unabashedly welcomes our partners of different faiths and secular and friends of different faiths to our Seder. I think that we are empowered to find ways to blend our traditions and not see that as a betrayal, but see that as a path that our ancestors took to find a oneness, a unity in that moment. And know that there are many things that we might give up to create space for another's voice. And lastly, I mentioned that as a Reconstructionist, this is my Torah, my blessing, is that we can renew our holy day. When we first placed an orange on our Seder plate, which is the norm for many people, we began a reconstructing of our tradition and inviting a Passover in this moment. And while I invite us, whether it's olives to symbolize peace and solidarity with those fighting for peace in the Middle East, or whether it is putting tomatoes for farm workers, or even what I suggest this year after yesterday's passage of its bill, the possibility of putting a water bottle on our table. Our members, you can find in your email, I sent out a supplemental reading for all of you. I could put a link in the chat when I'm done. For our guests, you can find it under our Passover resources on our website. But for those who want to stand up for democracy or invite the sense of let our people vote, which I'm sure Moses would say if he was with us today, I invite you to join me in making voting rights a part of our liberation aspect of our Seder and join in what our tradition has always done, reconstructed itself in order to be relevant and meaningful in its time. Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach, and I look forward to celebrating with you and seeing you on the other side. I'd like to invite Marcy Alt to offer some announcements this evening as a member of our board. Good Shabbos, Marcy. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach, Rabbi. Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos to everybody. Shabbat Shalom and welcome. We are so glad to host so many friends from around Atlanta and from around the country to our virtual services. All are invited to our offerings in the coming week. The Cbh Passover Seder will be held on Sunday, March 28th at 5:45 p.m. Be a little early if it's 5:45 a.m. It's not too late to register. I know it's going to be a good time. Mindful Moments continues every weekday at 8:45 a.m. The 15-minute evening minyan, formerly known as the 10-minute minyan, it continues Saturday through Thursday, starting tomorrow, March 29th, and it'll begin at 8:30 p.m. All are invited to join. On Friday, April the 2nd, join us for Shabbat services with Rebecca Goldsmith. Rabbi Gottfried will be leading Yitzchak services on Saturday, April 3rd at 10 a.m. There are several new programs on our calendar. Members are invited to register for CBH's B'Echad at it's a 4-session program on the past, the present, and the future of CBH starting in April. Also, registration is open for Getting to the Other Side of Sadness, Finding Meaning in a Grief, a 2-session series running in April and May, diving into grief, particularly grief caused by COVID, and how it can be processed through a Jewish lens. The Food Security Project is looking for some fresh faces to deliver food on Friday. It's Friday afternoons. It's easy and it's a meaningful way to make a huge difference. CBH supports 15 families every week. Just email Rebecca at ourgrapevine@gmail.com to sign up. As a reminder, please support the new album, The Red Thread, from the CBH Correspondence Strings. You can purchase tickets or you can purchase the album on Bandcamp or CD at the Cbh website, and it's now streaming on Spotify. If you're an artist of any sort, be it visual, performing, or other, please consider creating a piece of art for Cbh's Red Thread Art Show. You can find all the details in your bet mail. Save the date for the online art show and silent auction. I don't have the date. Sorry about that. If you have a teen in your life, be sure to sign up to receive my ritual box. The first theme is Shabbat. Only 25 boxes are available, so sign up soon. As a reminder, if you need to contact the Cbh staff, please do so via their Cbh emails. I know they love Facebook, and I'm sure they're all on social media, but the staff doesn't check those emails as much as they check their emails for Cbh. So thank you with that. As always, for a full view of our offerings, please visit us on the Cbh calendar or Cbh calendar on our website. We have recently added a new section, Passover resources, under the COVID-19 resources. All Zoom links to our programs can be found on the streaming services and the selection of our website. Bookmark this page and you'll always know where to log on for your Cbh programs and events. Back to you, Rabbi.
Thank you so much, Marcy. We are near the conclusion of our service. We find the Aleinu on page 145. Please rise in spirit or body as you like. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liyotzeh breshit, shenatan Torah lemot. Shenatan lanu Torah hatemet, v'chaye olam nata betochenu, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech, malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Kakatuv b'toratech Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai le'melech ol kol ha'aretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. So as we say the prayer for the end of hiding, you may be seated. For those standing, I'm just very aware how much visibility matters. In one way, I was thinking today as I went briefly down to the Capitol at 3 p.m. for a rally to stand with Park Cannon about the voting legislation and her arrest, and seeing largely young folks speaking out powerfully in this moment, in the diverse crowd and in the diverse group of speakers. It just felt so incredibly important of recognizing a new generation is rising, and that this understanding of when we create space for visibility and recognition, powerful opportunities show up. And I think that was also true this week. We suffered a lot of challenges, but one of the highlights of this week is Dr. Rachel Levine, who was confirmed by the Senate as part of the Department of Health, is the first transgender, or is the highest transgender appointee of any administration in our history. And so doubly visible for us as both Jewish and transgender, and very excited about that leadership and what it has meant for so many transgender people, especially as on March 31st, we observe Transgender Day of Visibility. So I invite you to celebrate that win with me as we say this prayer. Please join me. As LGBTQ Jews, we are aware of the loss of integrity we suffer due to pressures of the larger society. We often feel forced into a dishonest presentation of ourselves, to ourselves and others. The LGBTQ individuals who feel they must pretend to be something that they are not, the Jews who feel they must be alienated from their tradition and community to enlarge acceptance. Both are victims of a theft of identity and integrity committed by the sexual, gender-identifying, or religious majority. Creator of the universe, we ask that our hiding draw to an end, that we no longer feel we have to pretend, to promise falsely, to renounce ourselves, and that our fullest creative expression as Jews and as lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and queer people be among the blessings you bestow upon us. Amen. We find Mourner's Kaddish on page 131. Again, for folks who would like to rise in spirit or body, please do. Please add the names of those that you are saying Kaddish for this evening. And of course, we honor the memories of those who died here in Atlanta from the Asian community, as well as those who died in Boulder, Colorado. May their memories be a blessing, and may their memories spark the change that is needed to provide a greater sense of safety in our country and protection, and the passing of thoughtful gun control. Invite us to put those names in. We say Zichronam Livracha. May all of their names be a blessing. Yitkadal v'yitkadal Shemei Rabbah Bialma Divrach Irute v'Amlich Malchute B'chai Yechon v'Yom Echon v'Chaye Dachol Beit Yisrael Ba'Gala v'Izman Kari v'Imru. Amen. Yehesh me Rabba Mevorach le'alam Omei Almaya Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekutsha barichu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiram be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehesh lama Rabba min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru. Amen. We take a moment to breathe, again to offer this blessing of peace, that last line of the Kaddish. May the one who creates peace for us, who creates peace in the heights, create peace for all of us, for all the people Israel, and all who dwell on earth. And let us say Amen. And if the Spirit moves you, I invite you to not only sing along, but help us dance out Shabbat, or this Shabbat service, into our own private Shabbat, as we wish each other a good Shabbos, a Shabbat Shalom, and a Zissen Pesach Chag Sameach.
Oseh shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, imru, amen. Oseh shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, imru, amen. Hey, la 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 la, la 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 la. Oseh shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Dance, Henry, come on. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, imru, amen. Come on. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la la ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ose shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru imru amen. Shabbat shalom, Chag Sameach, this is Pesach.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbos, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Hey, Gabby.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Hey.
Hi.
Bev.
Shabbat shalom.
Bye, everyone. Be well. Take good care.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Thank
I
you.
love that background. That's just fabulous.
Thank you.
Thanks, Margie,
For what?
for the poem or something. Y'all lighting candles.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, Margie, how was your event last night?
It went well. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Welcome.
Yeah. I hope you're doing well and have a good Shabbat.
You too.
Thank you.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Bye.
Look at
Shabbat
you.
shalom, y'all.
All righty.
Bye.
Ruthie, you're all made up.
Yeah.
You're looking very cute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good night. Bye.
Good
Thank
night.
you guys. Shabbat shalom.